welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vass. You can find me on X at hashtag Kangas, Instagram hashtag Kangaroos Podcast. Tonight, I welcome to the show Jesse Cardinal. Jesse, it's good to have you on after a win. It's been a long time since round two. Our second win of the season, first win at the MCG in 8 years, albeit we only play like one game a year there, so it's generally against good opposition like Collingwood. But before we get to our win, I've had a few people come in and ask about our centenary game coming up against the Bulldogs. What do you make of that? Because a lot of people are sort of saying, what would you pick them for? Because they're a small club. Why not go maybe this weekend? Because this is probably our last real opportunity against Collingwood. At home, you could have played at MCG. You could have got 70, 80,000. A lot of people have been quite critical. And maybe my thinking is maybe the club has just come in too late with this idea and thought, oh, well, we've only got one more opportunity to do this, going in our fixture, and it's against the Bulldogs in round 17. What do you make of it, Jesse?
Yeah, look, it seems a bit disorganised, doesn't it?
It looks like they've just decided on the fly.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't have had a clue like 6 months ago that they had this game coming up.
No. It looks very disorganised, which is far from ideal. That said, I mean, look, you've got to get a team to probably. You don't have to get a team to agree, but yeah, look, it's a bit weird for mine that we're not doing it this weekend against Collingwood.
Yeah. Would have made more sense to me. And you could have come in, like even when the fixturing was happening last year, you knew that this was coming up this year. You could have picked any game.
Like even the Essendon game on a Thursday. Well, actually, that was their home
game. That was their
home
game. That was the issue.
Look, I guess the positive, it is a Thursday night game, isn't it? The one against the Doggies.
Yeah, it is against.
Which is, that's incredible that they've given us a.
I'm surprised,
isn't it? Like that's the AFL's real. That's their assistance package.
It is now. Yeah, so
like it's pretty incredible that they gave us that, all things considered. Look, realistically. Yeah, look, it just seems disorganised to mine. I don't have a massive problem with it. You probably, Thursday night's pretty good, but yeah, I can understand why fans are upset. You want a bigger game against bigger opposition than the Dogs because, we're probably not. You want as full a crowd as you can. And against the Pies last year, we came off a win. It was a 150th game, and that was a good crowd from memory.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it wasn't a good result in the end, but it was a good show.
Oh, it wasn't worse. So we had a lot worse results in
100%.
Yeah, but we probably should have won too in saying that. So maybe it's just a little bit of lost opportunity there from the club. But we'll go to more of the positives. Jesse, on a personal note, congratulations. I spoke to you off air about this. An expected addition to you, your first one in October. How are you feeling about it all?
Thanks, mate. Yep. Look, just monitoring the situation closely to make sure North Melbourne is worth subscribing them up to. Look, very excited. Very excited. Thank you very much. My first. So I'm just cherishing the sleep while I've got it.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
October's obviously a good time because we were never going to play a grand final, and it means that hopefully I can normalise things before the start of the next season. So perfect timing, really. It gives me a good opportunity to really see how we go this year and work out if I'm going to sign them up as a North member or just let my dad have his way, given he's a Brisbane fan. Although they didn't have a great result on the weekend, they're doing a bit better than us.
Well, I'll take them still. Winning a premiership last year. At the end of the day, we just we're on that. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish, and they'll find form when they have to. So I wouldn't be worried too much about them. I'd love to be in their situation. But on the positive, we got the win. They did it, Jesse. We might as well go to the game. We'll get your thoughts on it. Very ugly game during periods, 139 stoppages. I think there was recorded. That's the most in 2 years in the AFL game. How did you see it? I mean, I guess it's good to get the win at the end of the day, which is all we're craving at this stage.
Oh, look, absolutely. I think I said to you before we joined, the main thing for me was we probably walked away from the last few weeks going, geez, we were robbed of a win because we really should have won one of those games. The irony is we saw it as playing against good opposition. Brisbane's just dropped one to Melbourne. Port Adelaide's bottom 4 at the moment.
That's weird, isn't it?
And Essendon has lost by 100 points odd to the Doggies. So maybe our form isn't as good as I thought. But I mean, look, all of us, we walked away. We should have won one of the last 3 games, if not 2 of them. Richmond probably should have won. I think they had most of the play. They missed a few shots at the end, but it all evens out. It was an ugly contest. We talked about it a little bit. I think the main thing for me is after the first quarter, we were able to dominate and score from the middle. They seem to want to make the game ugly because they don't score from the centre. They score more off that halfback line. Given that their defence, and Richmond fans have been arguing on one of my socials media posts all day, they've taken it the wrong way, and a few of the North fans are getting into a bit of a debate with them. I had a bit of a debate and then went to work and decided not to re-engage in it. But yeah, look, their backline is still extremely experienced. Like, we're talking multiple premiership players there. You know, Bolter, Vlosten. I mean, those 2 alone would be massive. You've got McIntosh. You've got Broad.
Broad's a good player.
Short's obviously missed the
Yeah, he
game.
was missing.
Got Miller. He's pretty experienced, I would have thought. And then obviously got Hopper and Taranto, which are big bulls in the middle. It's a little bit different. A few Richmond fans clapped back and said, well, you guys have got Parker, Darling, and Daniel. Well, I'm sorry, but Parker and Darling are both on the wrong end of 30, while most of your premiership players are, semi-recent premiership players. They're not overly old. They're like our Luke McDonald's.
Yeah,
that's the equivalent.
30,
We're talking about
31,
Nick Vlosten versus Luke McDonald. You tell me which one's going to have the best impact. I'd kill for their backline. But look, it was an ugly game for a lot of it. The ruckman had an obscene amount of tackles. I thought it was a good contest. So look, it wasn't. I don't know. A few neutrals said to me that they enjoyed watching it. It wasn't good for the heart, but I enjoyed being there and watching it.
I didn't mind it actually. Yeah.
Like,
I don't mind ugly games. It's
I didn't have a massive problem with it in terms of that type of style of play because it was still okay in terms of scoring. And both teams were able to get a run on. But look, there are some improvement points there. We obviously have some hard opposition this week, so there's some things we need to do. I'm interested to see what they do with with changes because you can't keep 1 or 2 players in there.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. I suppose the biggest surprise, Jesse, was winning a first quarter. Not just winning it, but absolutely dominating that first quarter. 4 goals up. We had Tom Powell on fire with 11 possessions, 100% disposal efficiency. Colby McKercher laying tackles. I think he had 4 in the first quarter. Kicked a nice goal on his left foot. LDU kicked a nice goal on the run. It was all happening. I thought, oh, geez, how far? Dylan Stevens, I think, had 8 touches in the first quarter. Had the wing to himself. I won't talk about the other winger just yet, but we'll get to him soon as well. But it just felt like, geez, this is going to be a comfortable victory. But our second quarter turned into our first quarter this week, Jesse. It was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was watching the first quarter and my wife said, I think this is the most I've seen North score in a quarter. And it probably was from the games that she's been to. It wasn't Melbourne, obviously, but she didn't go to that game. Of the game she's been to, she said, that was the best we looked. And then we turned the second quarter. We rocked up the second quarter and played like we played. I think it shows the good and bad of us. There is still a lot of improvement and some confidence. There's some things that absolutely need to be addressed. The one thing I will say is that, look, the one thing I will say with that second quarter, because I'll talk about that before I get back to the first. On the second quarter, look, it was really, really ugly. I thought Richmond did a really, really good job of changing the tempo of the game, and I think it took us by surprise a little bit. So kudos to them for managing that.
Yeah.
I think that in regards to the first quarter, look, we saw how we wanted to play. It looked a lot like some of those big wins that we had, or big quarters we had last year. It was an interesting one. There was one stage where we just waltzed through the middle in the first quarter, and I said to the people around me, I go, geez, that's literally like what I see every week from us, other teams doing to us. Like it was just way too easy. There was a bit of Richmond just did not show up, and they weren't ready for the contest. So kudos to them for getting it back to where it was. And look, kudos to us for leveling in the third because we could have just gone into some mental demons and just capitulated.
Yeah, the second half was quite even. I mean, you sort of mentioned probably the last 10 minutes, Richmond were coming hard. I think it was a goal, but they didn't kick a goal. They kicked a couple of behinds that were fairly close. I think Taranto had a good set shot.
Mm.
And maybe even Tom Lynch might have had one as well. Oh, he had one in the third quarter he should have kicked, and I think Seth Campbell was running into an open goal in the third quarter and just,
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, on balance, you probably pick Richmond, but it wasn't much difference to, what we've been cop in the last couple of weeks where we've just fallen short. And I guess the difference is this week we were at least in front rather than being behind trying to chase the game. I think that plays a big part too, Jesse. It's a lot easier to defend a lead this day and age with your setups and so forth as opposed to trying to get that winning goal with a couple of minutes to go.
Oh, absolutely. Look, it was a very, very different game to what we had, what we'd been playing in of late. I think the main thing for me was that we adjusted throughout the game, and I think that's something that we've been able to do pretty well the last few games in particular. Like first half of the year, we didn't really adjust well, and we've had to adjust because obviously we've started terribly in most of our games. But I think on the weekend we adjusted back to Richmond style. That helped a lot. There were signs of maturity there. I think the most impressive thing for me is, and I'm sure we'll talk about the players individually, but it was for me. It was other than Tristan Xerri, it was mostly the kids who got the job done.
Yeah,
like LDU had a big last quarter, which he had to do because he didn't really do much else for the first three. But he had a massive last quarter and really good on him for that. But it was really the kids for the first half. You touched on McKercher and his goal earlier, his tackles, 4 in the first quarter. He had 10 for the game. I don't think he's laid 10 in his career.
I think he had 10 in the first half, Jesse. Don't quote me on it. I'll probably have to look that up, but I think he had 10 in the first half.
And then just decided to stop.
Possibly. But still, that's pretty
fine.
good for him. Yeah,
Mate,
yeah.
If you lay
that's
10,
a big step forward.
Oh, that was his best game for the club. Like he got some obscene numbers coming off the half-back line last year, but they were empty disposals, if I can say it.
Oh yeah, very different.
Like they were. It was good. Like don't get me wrong, but they didn't have nearly the same impact of a Sheasel coming off the half-back line. They were very uncontested, and I think what we saw on the weekend is that he is a midfielder. He plays and he can play contested. He can tackle those things, but people are saying, "Oh, he doesn't do this. He doesn't do that." That's rubbish. He was the best pure mid at his age group. He didn't do that from not tackling. So it's all a bit silly, that whole commentary around that. I think it was absolutely his best game for the club. He really impressed me. And as I said, the kids, so Sheasel, Wardlaw, they all had their moments. They were very good defensively, which, that's a big kudo. Yeah. Because, I mean, we didn't have a whole heap of tackles inside 50. But we
4 or 5 or something. It wasn't many.
Yeah, it wasn't many at all. Go on.
Oh, sorry. Just on McKercher, while we're talking about him, I was going to save him till later. But, 10 tackles, like I said, worked hard for his possessions. A new role this year where he has, whereas last year he was just a link in the chain from the back line, getting ball probably way too easy, which is what you were probably saying just before. Now maybe he knows that it's a harder role and he has to go find his ball and he has to go get the contested ball now. It's probably just getting used to the role, I guess, too, Jesse, like playing a different role. High half forward on the wings as opposed to just being a rebound defender.
Oh, yeah, no, spot on. I completely agree with that. Look, it's taken him a while to adjust to a position, but he definitely got some CBA time on the weekend. It wasn't a whole heap.
He had 2 CBAs.
Like, that's 2 more than I think he usually gets.
He's only 2 for the year, yeah.
Yeah, which is, again, that absolutely is bizarre for mine, that he hasn't been given more. But, I mean, look, he had the 4 clearances, which is, pretty decent. I would have thought it was, up there. Wasn't the 11 from Tristan Xerri, but Yeah, that is what
Oh,
it is.
geez. We'll
Uh,
definitely talk about him.
But yeah, look, 4 clearances for Colby, and had a lot of contested ball, had a lot of impact with it. Went at a high disposal efficiency, 86.5%. 13 handballs, 9 kicks. It's still pretty good, 86.4%. So yeah, look, I'd like him to get. He played the role that you'd want him to do, and I think he'll learn a
Yeah.
lot from it in terms of what he needs to do forward of centre. And look, I would like him to get a little bit more mid time. But you know what? It was the weirdest week we've had all year for CBAs. Like, it was bizarre. You had Tristan getting his normal 96%. LDU was way down. He's been going at 80, 90% the last few weeks in terms of he's in there for 90% of the centre bounce. And this week he was in there for 59. I've not seen him that low in a very long time.
Yeah, well, he had 16, which is second most, still
Yeah.
behind Tristan Sherry. It was interesting now, but I will talk about LDU now. He spent large chunks up forward. Clarkson
Yeah.
said post game that he's going to look into doing that more for the next few weeks. I really like that because he finished the game strong and had fresh legs. So 27 touches, 7 clearances, 5 tackles, 7 scoring involvements too. A lot of them forward of the ball. I really like this role. It could almost be like a Bontempelli type of role between spinning forward and midfield. I don't mind mixing up his skill set there, Jesse.
Yeah, look, I've been a little bit critical the last few weeks of him getting way too much centre bounce attendance and nothing
Yeah, I
else.
agree.
Now, I don't know if it needs to be this low. It could be slightly higher than this, and that would be okay. But it was very balanced this week. He had almost identical numbers to Powell and Simpkin. While Luke Parker dropped down a rung, Wardlaw, interestingly, had not a whole heap of midfield time.
12 CBAs.
Yeah, so down a little bit, but we were still dominant around the clearance. I mean, what were the clearance numbers? 54 to 33. So we dominated the clearance.
That might be due to one player.
Yeah, wow. That is very, very true. But if you take him out of there, we still win clearance. Now,
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of you take his clearances out of there, you take his ruck work out of there, and we lose. But I think that makes a massive difference. In terms of it does look like we got more people in there and they were a bit fresher when they were in there. And I think it's worth having a look at because you can't just have a player these days who's a pure mid. If you think of the elite midfielders in the comp, they can all score goals. And I think LDU needs to build that. So I didn't mind sharing the load a little bit. Absolutely. I thought it was something different. But it means that, he's not in there 99% of the time, getting beaten up and then not having a lot of energy at the end.
I suppose you can get away with it, not having your best midfielder in there. If you've got a ruckman that's just playing as an extra midfielder as well. We might as well talk about Cherry. I feel like we're talking about him every week, but these numbers, 19 disposals, 11 clearances, 12 tackles, had one of the highest pressure ratings in the game. 6 scoring involvements. He's winning the coaches' votes at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll win a Brownlow because that's a midfielder's award, so probably something like a Dacos or something like that. So, but still, like this guy, he's almost making us like you could sort of sense if he doesn't win the hit out, Jesse, the midfielders almost look like they're on the back foot and they lose a clearance probably a
when
little
he's
bit
not
too
in
easy.
there.
That's how much,
when he's not in there, we look horrible.
Yeah. That's the influence this guy's having. I can't. Yeah, we've seen it even that 3-week period where we got smashed. He was struggling with an injury. There's no doubt about that. And we're getting smashed because of that. He could be the most important player in our team. I'll put him ahead of Larky right now.
He's winning our best and fairest. He's the most important player.
It's not even close right now.
Look, absolutely spot on. Look, I think I said a few weeks ago, the big thing about him is that last year people were probably potting his hit out to advantage rate and saying he was just mostly a contested, but I'm pretty sure he's ranked first in the comp for hit out to advantage. So
yeah, the same as Nank Curvis on the weekend, 10 each.
Yeah, I thought Nank was good on the weekend.
He didn't do much wrong. He's just going against a red hot player. So.
Yeah. But if you look at his career stats this year versus last year, he obviously has 48 coaches' votes already this year. Last year he had 37, so that's a massive one. From a player rating disposal, he was 16.12 last year. He's 18.26 this year, which is I think first or second in the comp. From a champion data, he was 119. He's 130.8 this year. Disposals, he's up ever so slightly. Contested disposals, he's up. He's up on pretty much everything, to be honest. I mean,
and I thought the bar was pretty high last year too, Jesse.
100%. Well, his averaging last year was 6.6 clearances. This year it's 7.7. Like, it's an obscene number. I think he's fourth in the comp for clearances. I think the only knock on him is that you would like him to obviously probably score a little bit more. I said that last week, get involved.
It's probably his marks, Jesse, around the ground.
And his marks around the ground. I think that's what, a lot of people pot on Gawn and say, a lot of North fans, and say Tristan's clearly a better player. Gawn does a lot around the ground, and I think that gets forgotten a little bit. And I watched the West Coast game on Sunday after hours, and Rowan Marshall, who was best on ground by the length of Flemington, despite their loss, he does a lot of that in terms of marks around the ground, scored. And I think he's probably the third best ruck in the comp. That's just my opinion. There's a lot of other ruckmen in there, but I think he was injured a lot at the start of this year, and I really rate Marshall. So, look, there's not much you can say about him, to be honest, mate. The fact that he's leading the coaches' votes, which I think is the only award in football that has any merit. The Brownlow doesn't. It's a joke award.
That's a midfielder's award.
Well, you can't sell me on Cripps should have had 2 Brownlows. You could even maybe take away 1, but 2 is comical. I wouldn't rank him in the top 15 players in the comp. I'd take probably 20, 30 players above him, to be completely honest. So, look, coaches award is my biggest one, because I think they're the only ones that really are in a good position to be able to judge players. And the fact that he's leading that is I don't know if absurd is the right word, or obscene. From where he came from, no one saw this. And if I don't even
think Tristan Sherry saw this.
No, there's absolutely no way he saw this. Of all the potting people have our coaches, our development, etc., Monkhorst should get a 50-year extension, just until he retires. Just sign him up, because he must have. I think he's had a whole heap to do with his development, but you got to give a lot of credit to Goldie. Goldie seems like the type of bloke, and he kind of said this, but I think Goldie, when he was at the club a lot, he would have spent a massive amount of time with Tristan.
Yeah.
Because you end up rucking against them in all your practice, etc. Like, he would have done a whole amount of work with Tristan, and I don't think that can be wasted. That one of the best ruckmen of the modern game, and probably unlucky not to be a multiple All-Australian. I think the only thing that stopped him of that was the fact that Max Gawn has been running around, but probably the second or third best ruck for the teens. I think his impact can't be lost, and a bit of a legacy in terms of leaving that. And I don't think Tristan ever saw this coming. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm going to do a comparison of Tristan this year versus Goldie in his All-Australian year. I mean, very, very different players. Hard to tell the difference in terms of you couldn't. I'm not going to say you'd have to sit here and pick one, but there's probably an argument to be made that Tristan this year in particular, it's pretty good.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting if he keeps going down his path. I do think I would see a better ruckman at the club. Like, I've been following it since early 90s.
Yeah.
I do think I'd see a better ruckman than Goldstein from what I've seen in my lifetime. But I'll tell you what, the way he's going, I think he'll not only surpass him, he'll be easily.
So it's interesting. Was it 2014 or 2015 that Goldie was All-Australian? Do you remember?
I know he had good years back then, because we made prelims and it was on the back of him.
2015. So in 2015, he averaged 128 champion data points. Sherry's on 130 at the moment, so it's pretty close. Yeah. Coaches' votes, he had 73 coaches' votes that year. He must have been near the top. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that seems like a lot.
Yeah. So, he's doing a good job. The one thing about us, for as terrible as we have been over the last 10 years, the one thing that we can rely on is we've never been a club who's gone crap, we need a ruckman.
I've never had a bad one in my lifetime. That's what we've always produced them.
No, like before Goldie, you had Hamish McIntosh and David Hale. They were both good ruckmen, in my opinion. Before them, obviously Spider. It goes back, and but we've had back to back really, really, really good ruckman in terms of Goldie into Tristan Cherry. And it's a bit of a gift. There's a lot of clubs out there who are absolutely screaming for a ruckman. I mean, well, Essendon is at the moment because of their injury status, but there's a lot of clubs that would absolutely kill for that. And it's just been one area that we've never had to deal with. Now, I thought we were when I said we need to pull a miracle out of a hat to replace because Tristan Cherry is going to be a dud, and he turned into what he did. So, yeah, look, at least a little blessing there. He makes a massive difference. It's an extra midfielder effectively, and he is our best midfielder.
Well, he had 122 ruck contests for the game. He didn't slow down.
No.
Like as soon as he,
what was his time on ground? It would have been 90%, still 88%,
87%.
There you go. So they gave him a little bit extra rest time than probably usual, and that's because of the amount of contests.
Yeah, amount of stoppages.
Like it would have been a physical game for him. Physical game against a good competitor. And this week he's got Darcy Cameron, who's an elite mark, probably one of the top 5 ruckmen in the comp. So,
well, apparently he's better than Tristan Cherry, according to Kane Corns. So,
when did he say that? Cherry at like 5 or something. Yeah. Anyway, take that.
He had Gorn, Darcy Cameron, and I think it was Marshall or maybe De Koning.
I think it was De Koning. Yeah, that's funny. But anyway, we'll leave that.
Yeah. Well, Inflatable Cactus has come in. Mentioned the pressure ratings in the second quarter. I have them here. Richmond 227, North Melbourne 219. That was because of all the stoppages.
Was that the second quarter?
Yeah. It was one of the highest.
Our pressure rating was pretty good for a team that gave up 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah, what was it? 4 goals, 1 to 1 goal, 1 in that second quarter. It was just all stoppages. That's all it was. Sort of come in with the best and fairest top 3, Sherry, Parker, PC. And our weakness, though, has been the second ruck chop-out guy. I thought Jack Darling did a couple of nice ruck contests in the third quarter, actually. Got a couple of clearances. So, yeah, I mean, but generally speaking, you don't have to worry too much about the second ruckman. I mean, they're not going to have too much of an influence, I wouldn't think. So, yeah, I'm still surprised that they're not going with Finn Barmelli, or at least trying.
Yeah, it's a real surprise, isn't it? I mean, look, Darling did a couple of good things in there, but he also gave away that goal where he got pushed out.
He got pushed out by Tom Lynch. Yeah, that's right. But
I think the same thing happened to him about a month ago against the Crows. I think Tex Walker did the same thing. He should not be rucking in the opposition's backline. Just don't let him in the backline. He can do it forward to centre.
Yeah, because Tom Hawkins was very good at that, sort of getting those ones. Those snaps at goals and grabbing them out of the ruck. We'll go to, the person that played on Tom Lynch, the blanket, we might as well call him that, Toby Pink, a team high with 7 intercepts, 2 intercept marks, including the crucial one right at the death. A really good one on the wing as well that led to a goal. A great chase down tackle, kept Lynch to effectively 1 goal. We just talked about his stoppage goal that he kicked, which wasn't his fault. I don't think he's coming out of the team anytime soon. He's almost cemented his spot ahead of Griffin Logue, who's probably his biggest competition now for the foreseeable future, at least, Jesse. He's
been our best key defender this year, as in terms of defensively. Look, he made that one mistake where he handballed it straight to a Richmond player in front of goal effectively, and they kicked the goal. And when I saw that, I thought, oh, geez.
I thought it was Aiden Core. I thought, that's an Aiden Core thing, but no, it's Toby Pink.
I saw that and I thought, oh, geez, we're in trouble. He had a massive last quarter. Like that chase down tackle, that intercept, and then that kick long. And the big one was that mark. Yeah. Now, the things that ruined that mark was the commentary. The commentary was terrible. You got to talk up a moment of that. Where's Leo Barry Star? Instead, he just runs with real monotone. This is the Fox one. I don't know if Seven was doing it as well, but the Fox one, it was just real monotone. And Lynch has thrown himself out of the contest.
It was almost there was a little bit of bias here. It almost felt like they wanted Richmond to win the underdog a little bit.
So. I think so. Now, to be fair, Lynch did throw himself out of the contest, and he didn't whinge either. Kudos to him. As soon as he did it, he looked at the umpire, and then he just looked at the screen and didn't whinge because he knew that he flopped. He knew that he flopped, and he probably cost him the game. If he'd gone 1-on-1, he might have even taken the mark. So, at
least brought it to ground,
yeah. Like that was just ridiculous. But nevertheless, like you've got to take that mark at that moment, and he took the mark. That's the big thing. So he had a massive last quarter. He was actually pretty decent. He was pretty effective. Someone described our backline today as workmanlike. And I think that's a polite way of putting
Yeah.
it, that Richmond's defense, they took a lot of intercepts. Now, as I said earlier, they've got Vlosten, they've got, Broad, they've got players down there, premiership players. They knew where to stand. They took advantage of our forward line. They took a lot of intercepts and they looked great. We don't have that luxury at the moment. Our back line is very workman. It needs a refresh. Paul is a worry, massive worry for mine. I wouldn't have him. He can't be in the team. He just can't be in the team. I'd rather anything else, anyone else.
Oh, that play, that was
It was just weak. It was back
that
to
was
that
embarrassing. Yeah,
it was like that Carlton game where he got dropped for him and Logue. In terms of some of the efforts, I thought were pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, he lost the 1-on-1 to a kid.
To a kid.
And then he completely flopped on that tackle, just tackled with the arms. It was a soft tackle. I think it might have been on Campbell.
So many free kicks. How many goals did they kick off him?
He gave away a couple of frees.
He was terrible for mine. And I know there's a few core fans out there, but he's terrible.
Shout out to Marnie Cohen.
That's as blunt as I'm putting it. I'm sorry, Marnie. I know all of your favourite players are probably down in the dumps this year. So, he's not for me. He's not for me. I don't even know if he's adding the experience we need at the moment. I would much rather get games into. I know Whitlock obviously is coming back from an injury now, and he hasn't looked as good since he come back from injury. But in the second half of the year, I'd rather him get a game. None of this 4 key defender rubbish, but I'd rather get games into him. I'd rather Dawson go down back now that he looks like he's got some form and he's marking, not scoring, but at least he's marking the ball. It means I'd rather see these type of players down back.
Well, there's a player I'm going to mention soon. They're playing the reserves in the back line.
My man.
Yeah, well, 100%. He could certainly be an option. We'll talk about that soon. Now, I mean, it is workmanlike, the defence, but only conceded 74 points again. We were under a lot of pressure in that second quarter, 19 inside 50s to 6. I guess it starts with defence, and if you have good defence, or at least minimise the scoring, then you'll be in games a lot more as opposed to the 3-week period where we're conceding 130, 140, 150 points where there was no defence. I mean, our skills still need a lot of work, but team defence, I mean, it starts from up the field, seems to be a lot better. We seem a lot more structured, and it makes a difference, reducing the scores and keeping us in games at least, Jesse.
Yeah, look, I think the last few weeks we've been able to be a lot more defensive. The scores have reflected that. I've been monitoring on that Wheelo website, which has got all the player stats that I get it. They do team ratings and team rankings and simulators and all this other stuff, and they have kind of like a magic quadrant of how our team's going. And we've vastly improved. Like, we were miles back in terms of defense. Our attack has been pretty solid. I think overall season ranking at the moment, our attack is 16th. Where are we? We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's that? It's 12th or so. So we're better than Port, Melbourne, Essendon, West Coast, and Richmond on attack, it reckons. That's pretty good. Defense,
I'll take it.
12th on that, and then, 13th on attack, and then defense, we're 16th above Richmond and West Coast.
It's improved though. Yeah, last month it's been.
It's vastly improved to the point where, from a offensive perspective, we're looking pretty good, and from a defensive perspective, it is coming leaps and bounds. I think on our overall rating now, we're almost on par with Essendon, which seems about right. I think we've played as well as. About the same mark as
We've got the same percentage as them.
Yeah, they got 2 wins. Really, they got a good win against Port Adelaide. We probably should have got a win against Port Adelaide. They got one other win, which
they beat the Swans. I mean, that's
they
did
better. Yeah, so I think there's definite improvement there. Percentage is a big one for me. Percentage is a massive one. I think that's a better indication than wins is percentage. And like this time last year, our percentage was 50, 60%. I think it was 50, 50 or 60% for 3 or 4 years. So the fact that it's 80 at the moment, we're almost halfway through the season, or effectively halfway through the season, is pretty bloody good.
Well, it's the same, effectively the same as Essendon, Port Adelaide, and Melbourne. There's a couple of percent in it, that's okay.
If we could finish the year with a percent, forget about the wins for a moment. I know everyone focuses on those. If we could finish the year with a percentage that was around 80%. That would be a massive step forward.
Mm.
A massive, massive step forward. And I know, the Brisbane comparison gets made a lot because of Clarko and Fags, but as I said, I watched a lot of Brisbane, and in the year before Lockie Neal and all of that joined, and they came top 4, and I understand all those players joined, and that helps. But the year before, they lost a lot of games by small margins, and I think their percentage that year was pretty decent, and they still finished like bottom 4, and people were like, "Oh, they're going nowhere," but there was a lot of signs that year, and I think we've seen that. Even, the Adelaide game, 30 points, I think we were pretty competitive. Gold Coast, we were right in it, and then I think we fell away because of the heat. I think that one was it was almost a pass mark, despite the fact it was 50 points, just because of how we fought up until that point and how good Gold Coast are. The only real abnormalities for me have been the Carlton game and the Sydney game.
Yeah.
The rest have all been...
The Sydney one was, and the Carlton one, yeah, you're right. They're the tough ones.
Yeah, like the other games this year we've been competitive in the other losses. At least for halves a game, if not 3/4 of those games, we've been competitive. And I think that's the main thing for me. There is definite improvement there, and that's why I don't mind scrapping a win against a team who are underdogs. We got a win done, and I think people forget that you forget how to win.
Yeah.
And you mentally forget how to win. It's a big thing.
Oh, definitely. Look, if we
Richmond coming off a win.
Yeah.
Like they're coming off a win against West Coast at that exact ground in a small margin, so they knew they could do it. If you're a kid running around in that, you can do it. Well, we're coming off a draw and a couple small losses.
No, definitely. Look, it's something to build on. Like if we beat Port Adelaide a few weeks ago, it would be above them on the ladder.
It's pretty incredible, isn't it? Like if we had, if we had even if we'd beaten Brisbane last week in the draw, I mean, all of a sudden we're still doing pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, you beat Brisbane, and let's say you beat Essendon, you're 18 points. So you'll be 11th on the ladder.
Yeah, and people would be going
2 points off 8th spot.
And that's what I'm saying. We could have easily won 2 of the last 3 games, and then all of a sudden, you're on 8. You're on 16 points, and you could be anywhere between 11th and 15th, but percentage-wise, it's pretty good. So all of it, you'd be saying, geez, North has improved. But you're not, because we got a draw and 2 narrow losses. But we just got to, that's got to be our minimum now. What we've done over the last month has to be our minimum effort. And we're going to take that into the next block of games.
Yeah, obviously we've got Collingwood this week before the bye.
Yeah, which is tough.
After the bye, I think we've got West Coast straight away.
West Coast and Freo, and then Carlton, I think.
Yeah, so not a real tough draw, to be honest with you.
Should be West Coast.
Oh, they were pretty good the other day, so you never know.
Because, I mean, we're on 2.5 wins at the moment. We bet West Coast, that gets us to 3.5 wins. It's getting there.
Yeah, I mean, every week's different. I mean,
3.5. You hopefully win a game against Richmond again later this year. That's 4.5. You can get one more on top of that and somewhere, and it doesn't look horrible.
No, exactly right. You got St Kilda, a bit up and down. You get them on the right day.
You got Melbourne again. Who knows what you get? You get the one that beat Brisbane, or you can get something completely different. Even Freo is probably gettable.
Yeah.
Now,
look, they're up and down. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like you don't know what you're going to get from Freo. Now what worries me is they've got key forwards that tear us apart. But we'll get to that when we get to that. By that point, maybe we'll have an elite Eddie Ford down there.
Oh, look, more than likely. But speaking of players that aren't elite right now, Jesse, we've got to talk about Bailey Scott on the wing.
God.
Unfortunately, we had to bring this up. 5 possessions and subbed out in the third quarter. His confidence looks shot. He looks like a completely different player to the guy that's come.
He's terrible.
Look, I'm trying to defend him. He's what the top 3 best and fairest last.
Negative 19 meters gained. What are you doing? That's incredible. Negative 19.
Yeah.
You're a winger.
Yeah, that's a fair effort, isn't it?
Like, when did he get subbed off? It was probably, halfway through the third?
Oh, there's about 10 minutes left in the third.
Yeah. So he's played for, a decent chunk of the game. He got 5 disposals. I don't know what he did with them. He ended up.
I can't remember him getting one, to be honest with you, Jesse. I was telling you off there, I can't remember seeing him get one. So
no, he had a 0.4 player rating, which was equal with Jonty Fall, who's a 18-year-old key tall forward.
Yeah.
He had less than Caleb Smith, who I think was their sub,
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
and he had less than everyone else. The only one below him was Zane. So it's really bad. He cannot.
He can't play this week.
He can't play this week, and I don't think they'll play him this week. It would be weird if they played him this week because they subbed him, and he's been on the outer anyway. If they've got, I don't think they'll play him.
Oh, they can't. Yeah.
If they did, it would be absolutely bizarre.
Oh, yeah. I can't justify. You can't have passengers like that.
No, you got to send a sign.
Go, and he needs to probably go into reserves for a good month and find some form.
Yeah,
he's got to earn his place back. Because I thought even when he came back in the team, and you were watching a bit of reserves, I don't think he was
no
blowing the door down.
He's doing
it was
exactly
more his name was.
Oh, yeah. Exactly right. He was rolling around pretty much like Zach Fisher is at the moment.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
And to be honest, I'd rather Zach Fisher in the team than Bailey Scott.
Yeah. Oh, well. At the moment,
by light years. If they said to me this week, "Are you happy with Zach Fisher in for Bailey Scott?" I'd be over the moon.
Yeah, I'd look at this stage. I'd almost rather Darcy Tucker over him.
Whoa, let's not go that far. Darcy's injured apparently.
Oh, he must be because he didn't play.
Yeah, he didn't play. Didn't play
unless he got injured early, but I didn't see that. So, kudos to the organisers fixturing the game.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, good stuff.
I thought it was brilliant. We'll continue. Cameron Zerhard, a few issues with his foot, Jesse.
Apparently
kicked 4 goals. Size 15 boot he had to use.
Maybe someone should do that to him every week.
Yeah, just on that, is it worth taking that risk? Because that can't be a good thing if your foot's that swollen. I don't know what's going on.
Look, he must have been ticked off by the medicos. They must have said, look, there's no way of making this worse, but it's just if he can run, he can play. He must have been uncomfortable, but he had probably his best game of the year.
Yeah, look, he looked like he was going to blow the game open and kick 6 or 7.
Well, he was ranked 4th best player on the ground on player rating. Yeah. You know, he had the 9 disposals. Sure, it's not a massive amount, but 6 of those are contested. He obviously had the 4 goals, but he also had 1 goal assist.
Yeah, no, that's right. And 4 contested marks as well.
Yeah, he took some big clunks. He roved that goal really well. He looked good.
No, look, we can only hope.
He was our best forward. I mean,
he's our most dangerous. Yeah,
by far.
So, how do you see these 3 tools at the moment? Darling has his ability of turning into Carey for periods of the game. 2 goals, 17 touches, 10 contested, 4 clearances.
Massive quarter.
I think if Bailey Scott wasn't so bad, they probably would have subbed out maybe Malley again this week.
Yeah, I felt so. Look,
it's just too immobile. I think Jesse still is. Yeah.
If you're not going to use him as the second ruck, now he could kick that goal, but it was a bit of, and he took another contested mark. I don't hate the 3 key forwards. I don't hate it, but it's not working. And they intercepted. They just got outmarked too much.
Yeah.
Now a lot of that was Nick Larkey, and I think we've just got to learn to live with that a little bit. He's not a contested player. He's a on the lead, smart leader. Meaning we need one of the others to be a contested marker. Now, Darling was clearly, went out of the game for patches, but he also had 2 goals, 7, score involvements. He was pretty solid, which is good because he's had
I think it was mainly his second half. His first half, he looked washed again, and then all of a sudden he just puts his Wayne Carey cape on. He's really bipolar at the moment, isn't he?
See, the thing was, if he was playing third forward of the 3 tools as opposed to second, then it would be okay, I think. But he's having to play second key forward, and then we're playing a kid who Finbar. Look, he kicked the goal. I don't necessarily know if they drop him or not because you probably want to try and stretch the Collingwood defense. Don't know if Darcy Moore's going to be back. You probably want to stretch it a little bit, but it didn't really work. It only works if you're going to take contested marks and outmark the defenders who are intercepting it against you. So, look, it didn't massively work for mine. I still probably prefer the 2 tools with Zerha, and if Curtis is fit this week, then you probably have to bring him in for one of those tools because he plays like a tall, doesn't play like a small.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think I mean, he might come in for Dersma, who was a sub anyway, but he had no influence on the game. I think he had one possession when he did come on. It just, yeah, like you said, I still think you probably take one of the tools out and take even Dersma out, and I'd still like to see a small. We might as well talk about him. Cooper Harvey, another 3 goals, looks dangerous inside that forward 50. He's got to get an opportunity, Jesse. Otherwise, what's the point of just give him a chance before you make a decision on his future?
I think they don't. I just don't think they rate him. Yeah. He had 14 disposals. I mean,
that's not a
like it's pretty good.
I didn't watch it all.
2 tackles. Yeah. I mean, and he's been good the last few weeks. I just don't think they're that keen on giving him a game, which is a big shame because I probably would prefer, to be fair, him in over. Yeah, I'd probably prefer him in over one of the tools at the moment, so a Finbar. I just think a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more pressure. You know, add something a bit different. But yeah, look, they obviously, yeah, they haven't given him a go. Geordie Payne obviously had the 1 goal, 1 and 11 disposals, had his normal 5 tackles, loves to tackle. They're probably different though. Yeah, Cooper's probably coming in. He's a bit more similar to a Paul Curtis in terms of a small who's a good clunk. Although I think he's worked a lot on his lower ground game in terms of pressure and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
The one thing that I've said, and I know I've said this a lot, and they obviously don't care about this because they want a very defined forward structures. Like Richmond, yes, they went and drafted a lot of tools, and they're playing a bit taller than usual. But they've got a lot of players around the ground or high pressure, running, mosquito fleet. A lot of their mids and wingers play that kind of role in a dangerous forward centre as well. Yeah. I would like to see a little bit more of that. We rely on the mids going for, and I know we've got so many mids, but we rely on the mids going forward and playing that role. I just think there's a place in the team to give a crack to, Cooper Harvey. But
I think it's worth a shot. Yeah.
Well, he's averaging 1.9, almost 2 goals a game.
In horrible outdoor conditions half the time, where it's raining, like windy. It's not easy.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, look, I'd love for him to get a crack, but they just don't seem sold on him.
Yeah, I guess we might as well talk about the reserves. And a couple of talking points. I watched a little bit while waiting for the train and on the train. Fisher playing midfield. I still wouldn't mind seeing him play as a small forward.
Yeah, I'd like him forward.
I wouldn't mind trying it.
Wing or forward or centre, something a bit different for him. Just, yeah, not backline.
No, there's no point.
I think there's a role. I think I would rather him in the team than a few others at the moment. But yeah, I'd like him as a small pressure forward.
Well, that's how he made his reputation.
Yeah,
as Carlton, and he wasn't
so it's a bit
bad
weird.
player.
It's a bit weird because that was before he started getting a lot of disposals and doing all these other things. Yeah, I'd rather him than Bailey Scott. I mean, as I said before.
Oh well, he can play on a wing. If he's playing midfield, he can go to a wing. He's got a bit of pace.
Yeah, he's got a decent tank from memory.
Yeah, I think he does, as far as I know. He's coming off a couple of soft tissue injuries, so maybe that affects him. I'm not too sure.
Maybe,
Eddie Ford.
Yes.
Playing in the back line, Jesse. I don't mind this. 26 touches and 10 intercepts. He's probably not going to get a game as a forward because we've got too many at the moment. They want to develop like a Zane Dersma, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But as an intercept defender, we're probably still crying out for one. I mean, we've got Toby Pink, one of the blanket. But Aiden Core, we're a bit 50-50 on him, maybe even 30-70 to be honest with you. He could be the answer we're looking for in that back line, Jesse. Is it worth a try?
He had 8 contested possessions and he went at 88.5% disposal efficiency.
Oh, he's a good user. He's a very good user.
I didn't. This is probably the only game I haven't caught, so I'm going purely off stats. So anyone who went and watched the VFL after the fact, I mean, kudos to you. But he had 17 of his 26 disposals were kicks. Now, I don't know if there's a way of getting meters gained or anything on this app. I'm trying to work it out at the moment. I'd love to see that if there were a lot of chip kicks and stuff like that. But that's a pretty good game. It's a pretty good game. I think I've commented on a few times where in some of the games where he was playing as a forward, they would drift him down back to play as a bit of an interceptor. So they kind of tried him in that a little bit. And I've said at times I don't actually mind him off a wing because I think he can roll around the ground, take a mark. But getting him in the back line seems to get him involved, as it does with a lot of players, to be fair. There might be a player there. Now, he's not your, tall key defender, but maybe a third defender like that.
Yeah, well, he could
Or that
go
Luke
in for
McDonald model.
yeah. Look, similar height to Luke McDonald, I think, but can play a bit taller than probably what he is as a
He's a
third
good mark.
defender. Yeah,
He's a good mark. Like Luke McDonald's 188. What do you reckon?
no, he'd be about one. He'd be close to that. I'd say. He
84,
would.
189. So yeah, almost exactly the same. So he's a decent height. Yeah, look, I like it. I like it. Trying something different. And yeah, look, kudos to them for actually giving it a crack. But to get 10 intercept possessions is pretty decent because Logue only had the 6. Cal Dawson only had the 5.
Yeah.
So
He had Tomlinson, I think, get a heap of them too. There's a lot
Yeah,
of defenders in that reserves team. Will Dawson's playing forward now because we've got too many.
But yeah, look, I'd rather. I know we're potting on Core and Scott a lot, but I'd like Eddie Ford to get a go in the team because he's more mobile than the others. Now he's not a pure defender, sure, meaning you're relying a little bit more on the others. But it kind of takes the pressure off Comden having to be the interceptor and allows him to be more of a defender.
Yeah,
and I think he actually is pretty good defensively.
No, I know a couple of people have come into my comments on Spotify, Jesse, and it's Charlie Comden, not Comden or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
he was going to us. Yeah, you just call him Chom. He's come in the last couple of weeks, sort of telling the guests to say the right name, but no, it's all good.
Charles.
Yeah, yeah. Look, probably. I mean, he might spend the next couple of weeks in the reserves, but if he keeps dominating the way,
because did they put him down back last week?
Yeah,
right?
for the first half.
Yeah,
and then they pushed him back forward against Brisbane.
Kicked a goal, I think.
Yeah, he did kick one goal.
Yeah, I would persist with it. We've got the Pies this week in the VFL, obviously. Look, you'd probably give him at least a 2 weeks, another week. Then we have our bye. I don't know if we have a bye in the VFL or not. But it would be good to give him some games and then maybe look to get him in against West Coast. Like you look at because he's a good distributor. He gets around the ground, so you'd probably play him around that half forward back line. If he works on his defense a little bit, he can play probably a Sicily type role. I'm not saying he's going to be. If he became anything like Sicily, it'd be pretty bloody good. But, or even of Loston in terms of not overly tall, but able to take an intercept. And able to. So yeah, look, I was going to say, hopefully he's working with the defenders on how to defend, but I don't know who would be a good role model.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. But he's a good ball user too, Jesse. That first half last week, he was getting a few cheap touches playing the back line last week. He wasn't getting the intercepts, but every time he got the ball, he hit a target, which is very rare for a North Melbourne player in the back half. So generally, we just we butcher it. But team changes. We'll go to that for this week. Now, Bailey Scott looks like he's going to come out. I think Zane Dersma probably might have to come out as well. Get Paul Curtis back this week, hopefully. There is a quad issue there. But any other team changes I'd like to see? I mean, we probably mentioned Cooper Harvey. I think Zach Fisher. There's not much else, is there, really? We'll go tall forward. Would you drop a tall forward for this week, maybe?
Yeah, I would. Look, Adelaide went in there with 3 talls, as you know, that's their go-to. And Fogarty kicked the 4, Walker kicked 1, and I don't think that Riley kicked 1. So, I mean, you probably want to be a bit more mobile for mine. You definitely want the key forwards, but I think we need to be a bit more mobile because they can just waltz it out of their back line, Collingwood. They're very good at that. They've got Josh Dacos playing off the half-back line, racking them up, 29 disposals. Braden Maynard had 24 disposals. You've got, Isaac Quaynor, 17, Howe, 17, Perryman, 16, Houston, 15. They're getting a lot of pill off the half-back line. And that's going to absolutely murder us. So probably for mine, I'm dropping Finbar. I'm playing the other 2 talls, and I'm bringing in... Look, more likely than not, it'll be Paul. Let's assume Paul Curtis is fit. Then you do a straight swap for Paul Curtis, and you probably leave it at that. I am dropping Scott. I'd be open to Fisher, but I'm also open to playing a Sullivan and McKercher off the wing, and playing Eddie Ford off the half back line. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't hate it. I actually almost, you
Yeah,
could
that's a
even
good idea.
rejig things and just play Fisher off the half back line if you really wanted to, and off the wing and swap them around. I'd rather that. They're going to give more than Scott is at the moment. Dersma's an interesting one. I haven't hated his last few weeks. I think he's shown some signs. I think he looks better on the wing than he does when he's just sitting up forward. Because when they brought him on as sub, they just played him as a forward.
Yeah, they played half forward.
Yeah, he'd be an interest. I'd like to see because he's a good contested mark. He's one that in the VFL I wouldn't mind getting a few games down back, as in like off the half back line.
Yeah.
Because he's a pretty good distributor, and he's got some good skills. I think you've just got to try something a bit different with him to get him involved. So look, changes for me: Scott Claw out, and probably Finbar, and you're probably bringing in Paul Curtis. And the other two, I'm not overly concerned. I think there's a few players they can choose from, and I'd be happy either way.
What about Cooper Harvey? Is still.
I'd love it in the team, but there's probably a part of me that's given up because I just don't think they rate him. I'm not sure what it is, but look, Collingwood were really good on the weekend. I watched that game, and I mean, they're probably the best team in it at the moment, but they narrowly got over the line against Adelaide, but Adelaide are a good team. They have a lot of experience. They did well resting all their players when they went over to Perth. So they were looking pretty fresh. The one thing is that they are old. And that,
very old, yeah.
I mean, we say that their average age is 28.8. I mean, it's funny calling them old given that we're older than that, but
yeah,
they should.
I'm a lot older than that. So.
I mean, look, they're older team. They're the oldest team in the comp, and I think they're the oldest team ever, actually. So
yeah,
it means that there is a part of me that says that they're gettable if you move the ball at pace. Because they've only what have they lost this year? How many games have they lost? One.
I think they only lost the first opening round, didn't they?
Against GWS.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And GWS won that game because they ran them ragged all over the park.
Yeah. Oh, they've lost two actually.
Who was the other one?
Oh, that's a good question. Was it against Geelong? It was against Geelong by 3 points, I think, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that was a close game. That's it could have gone either way. So
yeah,
they lost a close one.
I think we have to play like we did against them last year. I know that was our best, probably half of football in 10 years, but we probably need to play even like we did in the first quarter against Richmond. I just think we've got to move the ball with intent. If we try to chip it around a lot, they zone the ground better than anyone. We're not going to chip our way through that. We need to move the ball with pace. And if we can get it to the forward line, I think you can score against them. I think they can be scored against. Their back line still has some question marks. Darcy Moore, from my understanding, has no certainty to be playing this week. And I think that there's one or two others who are iffy whether or not they'll be playing or not. So like Jordan Ngoe, I think he won't be coming back. But if he does, he won't be fully fit. So I think they're gettable. I know that sounds weird because we're coming off a 2-point win against Richmond, but I think they're gettable. But realistically, I just want to see the same level of competitiveness. I don't want to get blown off. If we get blown away, it's going to be low on confidence. I don't want that going into a bye and then West Coast. Ideally, we just need to show some real intent, and I think then we can be competitive against them. I think they're gettable.
Well, last year when we played them, we came in with a bit of form, I think. I think the week before we might have won it. Was it our first win or might have been against West Coast or something? We're finding a bit of form.
Yeah, I think we had West Coast the week before, yeah.
And then we played them the next week, and George Wardlaw had his coming out game where he had 15 touches in the first half. Everyone was on
running around like Michael Voss in that first half.
yeah, that's right. Before we go to final prediction, one player that we've probably been critical of, and that's Jacob Constanti. Now, he kicked a nice goal. We don't see it enough, though, Jesse, do we? That's the only time he's been front and square to a contest, and he ran onto the ball and got a goal.
We probably haven't mentioned him because he's a bit of a nothing player for mine. He did a couple good things. He tries hard, and that goal was good. But again, there's probably a little bit that goes, oh, well, they're just content with him in the team. I would rather a Geordie Payne. I would still rather a Geordie Payne or a Cooper Harvey than him in the team at the moment. And I think on form, if you're going to be fair, you would do that. But they just seem to be content with giving him games.
Yeah, they see something in him. He's got that every time he does something, he's got that bit of a Tom Papley vibe, hasn't he?
How many tackles inside 50 for him?
Well, he had 2 tackles for the game.
Well, there's a problem.
Yeah, so I don't think he. I think he might have laid 1. I'm not too sure.
That's a worry.
Yeah,
that's his role. He's not doing it. Yeah. That's a worry for mine. So
he's got to get front and square to more contests too. The ball's going in long and slow. He's at least got to be on the ground front square, and that's the criticism. I
think one more quick shout out of a player that we also forgot to talk about. Riley Hardiman didn't have his best game that he has over the last few weeks, but in that third quarter, when they were taking a bit of control, and he was roaming down the wing. I'm not saying I want him as a winger, but he looked nice roaming down the wing. His left foot into the forward line was a 50-metre pass to the advantage of Nick Larkey.
Yeah.
Goal. And then his next kick, again, was a penetrating left to the same pocket, which got Crum Mozoha goal. Yeah. They were 2 massive moments because they were looking really solid at that point in time, Richmond. And they could have put a margin on us going into the last quarter. And his inside 50 work was good. It's going to be great once he gets his confidence up. He's taking a lot more of that pill. He's able to defend, but he's taking a lot more and being able to distribute it up the ground. A lot of what we were hoping to get from Goda.
Yeah, look, he's 3 or 4 weeks away from being 3 or 4 weeks away. But Josh Goda. I don't know what's going on there. He seems to get soft tissue injuries now, so it's a bit of a concern because he's out of contract at the end of the year. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made where they put him on a rookie list, and there's a player there, but if he's getting soft tissue injuries, then he might be losing a couple of yards of pace, and that's his big strength as well. Riley Hardiman, 12 touches just going on him, 408 metres gained as well. So that's a lot of metres. He's got a long penetrating kick, and like you said, he does some beautiful passes.
Yeah, 100%. It shouldn't be lost on him. He is a defender first. He can defend one-on-one. He's still learning. He's still inexperienced. He's still a kid, but he does some really, really good things. I think there's a player there. There really is a player there, and it's great that it's sad that it took this long to realise that for the coaching group that he was better than Tucker. But anyway,
it is what it is now. Pat came in. He said, "I believe Paul Curtis is playing this week. Let's hope so. And if we play our best, we can win." Look, we're half a chance. It'll take a little bit of luck. But you never know. I mean, we've got some good form in the last couple of weeks going against some decent opposition, albeit against the third last team, but they're not a bad team. What's your prediction for this week before I finish up, Jesse? What do you think? Are you confident we can be competitive?
They're a good team.
Yeah, they are. It's going to be tough.
I'll say Pies by 4 goals, and I'd be happy with that. And I know people are going to say you can't be happy with another loss. Sure, I'll be disappointed. I'm not saying I'll be happy with it, but yeah, it's a tough ask.
Well, last time we said, if we get within 40 points of Brisbane, we'd be happy. So.
Well, look, weirder things have happened. But I think, as I said to you before we joined, there's just a bit of me that worries about us playing at Marvel. We just seem a bit off every time we're there. We just don't defend well.
Yeah, well, we had that big loss against the Swans where we were pretty ordinary.
And Carlton.
Carlton, Good Friday.
If it's like that, I'm walking now the game.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope we've learned some lessons. We've been quite competitive in the last month. We'll see how we go. We'll still enjoy this for the next few days, this win, because we don't get many of them. So we'll enjoy that, and then we'll worry about the Pies later in the week. Well, Jesse, I know you've got to go somewhere very soon, so I really appreciate you coming on, staying the course. Hopefully, I can get you back on next week, and we can get another win and go into the bye flying and talk about finals, Jesse.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, look. We just need a couple more. If we can win this week, we're on. Finals are on.
Yeah. Oh, look, you never know. We'll be ruling those games where we lost by a couple of points. We would have been in the top 8. So,
the funny part is that if we finish 9th this year, it doesn't really matter.
Look, I'll take 9th.
I'd take 9th. 9th would be like a premiership.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we'll see how we go. Look, we're a chance to get up the ladder and not give Richmond too high of a pick, which is pretty important to be honest with you, because that's the lower you finish, that trade looks worse and worse. But we'll worry about that. Anyways, Jesse, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you to all your listeners as well. I'll try and be back on Thursday to go through the teams and preview the Pies game. Give a thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. That's it from me. Bye for now, and go Roos.